Steve Darrow, if you're given the chance to overturn laws that forbid price gouging in areas that have experienced a disaster, would you? Please explain. I would. I would overturn those laws. I would make laws against price gouging. I would not legislate the price of something. That doesn't mean I wouldn't do anything about it. But your philosophy has to be consistent. And the only reason I can ever see for legislation being involved with a person's private business is in the case of a national emergency of the magnitude that threatens the existence of the country. Something where you could very credibly say, if we do not do this, there will not be an America to come back to. Those kind of war emergencies, I would allow just about anything. I'm not one of these people that say, well, I think the Civil War is a great example of having to bend the Constitution in order to save it. And I think the Civil War proves the case that powers taken during the war were returned after the war. All of the powers were then lost, but it was lost a generation later during the Progressive era. The powers that Lincoln took were returned to the people. It was only 30, 40 years after the Civil War, or more, 50, when the Progressives began to take those powers away again. It took away the power of the states with the 17th Amendment and attacks the 16th Amendment and all the rest. So I have a philosophy about things, and my philosophy is that your business is your business. And you can do whatever you want with your business, with your private business. I think you should be able to hire the people you want and fire the people you want, based on your whim. The business owner is the person taking the risks, and if the business is not doing well, the staff doesn't get a pay cut, not generally anyway. Everybody talks about, well, businessmen are so rich that some small percentage of all businessmen get rich in business. Most of us get paid 2 or 3 times what our employees are making, and sometimes not even that. And sometimes, and I'm feeling this line coming, but I also have a high degree of confidence in this foundation thing. But sometimes you find businessmen who are putting the payroll on their personal credit cards. So my appreciation for running a business has improved and multiplied enormously after trying to run a business, which I've done badly. So I know the effect that regulations and I'm against it on principle. I'm against on principle somebody else saying you can do this or do that. Does that mean that I would have a restaurant where you could ban black people? It means if you want to have a restaurant where you ban black people, then that's your right in your business. You can also have a restaurant that bans conservative white commentators if you want to. I don't think a business like that would succeed. And when I said just because I don't think there should be laws against it doesn't mean I couldn't do anything about it. I would simply say that, no, you can set whatever price you want to for these emergency items. And I would say, and I understand that during times of crisis, it's tougher to restock, and that involves cost too, and there's cost of the damage. I understand all of this, that things get more expensive in an emergency. But I would basically say, but breakout greed taking advantage of the situation is not going to be banned by legislation, because I believe you have the right to be greedy, you have the right to do whatever you want to in your own business. But I would say to people that are in fact price gouging, that first of all, if you have any honor and sense of decency and sense of patriotism, you should just stop doing it right now. And if you don't, then I would say I would strongly encourage everybody in the community that is having to pay these outrageous prices now, that they not forget who was charging them what when the chips were down. I would try my best to make it all a free, voluntary transaction that would basically say, okay, you want to charge $60 for a bottle of drinking water? Then that's your business, but I won't forget it, and I'm never coming back here again. Now, some people say, I just got a question from where was it? Cody MacArthur, FET. basically says what happens when other people can't afford it. In other words, what happens if you're priced out of water? This happens to be one of the few things that I think a government is useful for. Distributing water free of charge, meaning paid through by taxes, is the kind of thing that a government should be doing. This is exactly the kind of thing that a government should be doing. Shouldn't be telling us how to run our businesses and shouldn't be making moral decisions about good people and bad people. It should be basically saying we are going to provide as much free water as we have the capacity to provide. In a country like this, that's a vast capacity. Food as well. It's an emergency and it's paid for by you and the rest of the American people through your tax dollars. And we're going to bring in every single truck we have, and we're going to get this situation stabilized and back to normal as quickly as we can. But we are going to set up, as a military operation, if necessary, water stations and food stations so that people are not dying from lack of the essentials, water and MREs, so people stay alive. And if somebody wants to charge $800 for a Twinkie, I can't stop them philosophically, but I would ask the people who are being charged $1,000 for a Twinkie to not forget who was charging them $1,000 for a Twinkie when the hurricane is over, and that will be soon. So I would just try to make it clear that to people in an educational sort of way, not in a coercive way, that this whole capitalism, freedom, democracy, republic thing is about free will. And I don't have the right to limit the free will of this person to charge what they want to charge for their products. And at the same time, I would remind you that this person's business survival is predicated on your free will choice to take your business there. So I would try to make it clear that it would not make economic sense and it would not be in the individual store owner's interest, personal interest, to gouge prices. I would try to make it clear that doing that kind of thing is not in your personal interest, that you will pay more for this than you will get. And if you decide to do it anyway, there's nothing I can do about that. But nobody's going to die of thirst or hunger, not if I'm president and we have a military that has vehicles that can move. So Cheryl says I'm wrong. End of story, my friend. Well then, by all means, since it's the end of the story, go ahead and present the other version of it. Tell me exactly what the correct answer is. I am always willing and eager to learn new things. So please tell me what the correct solution is. And when you're at it, be sure to tell me what price should be charged for a bottle of water. I want to know what the exact price should be. And I want to know at what price point, specifically, what price point for one of these, for a bottle of water, at what point do you set the legal limit for how much you could charge for this? So go ahead. I'll just sit here and wait. Probably typing very quickly now, I would imagine. Yeah, I'm listening to since I'm wrong on this, I'm listening to my own edification and education. I'm interested in finding out at what price point the government decides to step in and who determines. The correct price is the going price. Well, the business owner is not able to pay the going price because he can't get supplies in the way he used to. You see, he can't charge the going price because he's losing money by getting paid the going price simply because in the emergency situation, the cost of getting everything in there is not what it used to be. It's immoral to tell people what they have to do. And especially when you're dealing with something as fluid as economics, because now you're in the world where you are now determined whether you're a good person or an evil person based on the 1%. Do you make $314,400 a year or more? If yes, then the answer is you're evil. You're a 1%er, and we're going to take all your money. But if you make $313,999, on the other hand, in that case, you're one of the 99%. Therefore, we're not going to do anything except give you more money. This attitude of coercion and the people. She says the poor should not go without. It's immoral to let someone die for thirst for a buck. And as I've said very clearly, there's nobody going to be dying of thirst for a buck in my America. That's the job of the military and the government. In fact, if our government concentrated more on doing those kind of things and less of the kind of things like meddling around in people's prices and writing in regulations, we'd have not only a happier country and a more productive country and more money to help in case of emergencies, we'd also have a better government that knew what it was supposed to be doing and had its head on the right way. This arbitrariness of a dividing line is not only immoral, it's completely illogical. It's virtually insane. What point is it? Who determines? The price of gas in California varies across the state, and certainly the price of gas in the country varies from state to state, largely predicated on things like local taxes, but also predicated on things like how close are you to the refinery. If I have to drive my truck for 2 days to get oil to you, or to get gasoline to your gas station, your gas is going to cost more than the guy whose gas station is a block away from the refinery. And to say that there's a dollar value that's going to simply work into this and solve all the problems, this is the amount. The price of gasoline was $2.50, and that's going to stay $2.50 through the duration of the emergency. It doesn't make any sense, and it becomes totalitarian. And then on top of the moral aspect of it, which I find repulsive, now you've got the actual practical aspect of enforcing it. So what are you going to do? Are you going to take soldiers and policemen who should be handing out water from the government and put them on the ground, checking the prices in 7-Elevens undercover to make sure that nobody's gouging people? This is not what I would call the kind of world I want to live in. Most people will do the right thing. Not everybody, but most people will do the right thing. And if it was a question of the only source of water being the guy at a 7-Eleven who's charging $7,000 a bottle for it, then that's something else. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a realistic problem and a realistic question in an emergency, which is what we've got right now on the East Coast. And if you say I'm wrong because I'm against the idea of the government artificially walking in and setting a line beyond which you become a criminal in the middle of an emergency, who determines that line? Who enforces the line? No. If you're going to have the power to do that in emergencies, if you have the power, the legal and muscle to enforce a price on somebody during an emergency, that means you've got the legal and muscle power to enforce other things on people in peacetime. And I don't want to live in a country like that. I see what happens when people have those kind of powers. And as a general rule, I'll take 100,000 hurricanes rather than putting that kind of power into the hands of the kind of people that want that kind of power. Let's see, we'll do one more.